Hey guys, welcome back to Corey's Workshop. So today I'm going to show you how I built my new miter saw station. Stick around and I'll show you how I did it. So the reason I'm building this miter saw station is because my old setup wasn't getting it done. Basically, I kind of set it up real quick when we first moved in and been using it ever since. It had a few issues that I didn't like. First was the dust collection. It wasn't very good and it would continuously get clogged up. Next was the actual stand itself. So when I originally made this little setup, it was for a smaller saw. So when I upgraded, it didn't necessarily fit and I didn't do anything to correct it. So building my new miter saw stand, this will be a chance for me to correct all the issues that I had. With all that being said, I do not want to take up all my space with a giant miter saw station. So the idea is to make something that's perfect for a smaller space, maybe about 10 feet or so. That way, I still have a lot of storage involved and I'm not taking all of my space away as well. Most of this project is going to be made with 3/4 inch plywood. So to start everything off camera, I went ahead and built a base out of some 2x2s and some scrap plywood. Once I finished building the base, I grabbed some plywood and I start ripping it down to size on the table saw. These are going to be the base cabinets for the miter saw station. So I used my circle saw to cut these panels a little oversized so I can bring it back to my table saw and cut them down to final dimensions. Once I finish getting the sides cut out for the cabinets, I start moving on to cutting the stretchers on the table saw. These are going to be about 4 inches wide, so I just cut a whole bunch of them now, so that way I have everything I need for later. Once I get everything ripped down to size on the table saw, I take them to my miter saw and I cut them to their final dimensions, so that way we can start getting these cabinets built. To assemble these base cabinets, I'm going to use pocket holes and wood glue. Assembling base cabinets is pretty easy, as long as you make sure you have everything in the right orientation and you keep everything still when you're driving in the pocket holes. A trick that I didn't use that you could use is to brad nail everything in together and then use pocket holes to reinforce later. Real quick, does anybody recognize that TV stand in the background? If you don't, I put together a video for you. It's linked down below. It's how to build a farmhouse TV stand. Once I finished building the bottom cabinets, I put them down on the base and secured them at 1 1/4 inch screws. Once I finished the first base cabinet, I did the same thing with the second, except this time I secured the cabinets together using 1 1/4 inch screws. Once we had the base cabinets in place, I cut out some more 3/4 inch plywood to use as the countertop for this miter station. I checked for level on both of the countertops to make sure everything's good across the board. Once everything was confirmed, I secured it to the base cabinets using 1 1/4 inch screws. To set up for the shelf that's going to be used to hold the miter saw, I measured down until the miter saw would be even with the countertops. Once I had that measurement, I drew a line for exactly where I wanted that shelf to be placed. Now that I have the miter saw station partly set up, I went ahead and moved my miter saw over and started cutting down some stretchers for the upper cabinets. To set up a stop block, I had to get pretty creative. I ended up clamping some boards down and making it so it wouldn't move, but it worked out pretty good in the end. Now, just like the other cabinets, we're going to use pocket holes and wood glue to assemble everything. Once I had these upper cabinets complete, I attached them to the base cabinets using the same method with 1¼ inch screws. For the base of the upper cabinets, I used some more plywood. I attached it using brad nails and wood glue. So one thing I wanted to make sure I was able to store in this miter saw station were my stain cans and anything else that comes in a quart size can like that. So after going through a few ideas in my head, I end up sticking with this kind of a tray design. This way I'll be able to store, I think it was around like 30 cans of stain or quart size whatever. So it works perfect for me. So the way I assembled this tray was brad nailing the front and back on so nothing would fall out, and then I pocket holed 2 sides down so that way I could create 3 different rows. Once I was finished, I put a divider in the upper cabinet, then I attached some drawer slides to the tray and slid everything in. Check it out, it looks pretty good. I ended up putting a second one above it. My thought process was it's going to be easier to see what kind of stain I have and get to it as well. And this is just to give you an idea of where it was before I moved it down to the miter saw stand. So what I'm attaching here is going to help me be able to hold my dust cover on the front as well as keep the dust inside. I'm just going to attach this using wood glues and pocket hole screws. Next I'm going to work on dust collection. So what I'm going to do is cut a port in the back of this miter saw stand. What that port is going to give me the ability to do is attach a funnel where I can funnel all the dust in and everything like that, so that way it has somewhere to go. I'm going to use my jigsaw to cut out this port. I attach the funnel using 1¼ inch screws from the bottom. So while I'm working on dust collection, I cut out the back for the miter saw station. I'm going to attach it using pocket holes and wood glue. Once I put the back on, I was left with a little bit of a gap, so I ended up using some scrap 1/4 inch plywood. I brad nailed it in, and then I used some silicone caulk to make everything airtight in there. Once I was done with that part of the dust collection, I set up to put the top on. For the top, I wanted to make a bunch of cubbies just so that way I can always maximize my storage. Assembling the cubbies were pretty easy. I grabbed some spacers to make sure everything was generally spaced out the way I want it to be, and then I attached it using wood glue and pocket screws. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, getting this thing up was tough. My wife was at work at the time, so I had to do it all by myself, but we ended up getting everything up there. Once it was in place where I wanted it, I attached it using 1¼ inch screws from the bottom. Once I had everything attached at the bottom, I ended up adding the top and attaching that with pocket holes and wood glue as well. I ended up adding some T-track to the front of the upper cabinets. This way I can set up a stop block to be able to do repeated cuts. I'm going to make these drawers for the miter saw station out of 1/2 inch plywood. I cut them down into strips on the table saw, and then I take them to my miter saw so I can get them to their final dimensions. And if you guys are ever interested in any of the tools I use for my builds, they're linked down below in the description. Now, building drawers is pretty simple. For the 1/2 inch plywood, I'm going to use brad nails, wood glue, and then I reinforce with countersunk screws. Now for the bottom of my drawer boxes, I usually use 1/4 inch plywood, but I'm going to be holding a bunch of tools in here, so I want to make sure this is well reinforced. So I'm going to just use more 1/2 inch plywood as the bottom. Once I finish the drawers, I'm going to install some drawer slides into the upper cabinets. Now the way I set it up is I use some spacers so that way they're going to be even on both sides. I follow this method until I have all my drawers installed. I attached the drawer faces a little different than I usually do. I simply just brad nailed them in and then put a screw through the back just to make sure it would stay. I wasn't too worried about how it would look since this was shop furniture. Alright guys, time for the big reveal. Now remember, we're going from this to this. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below if you think I had a major upgrade. I'm sure you guys have noticed some of the accessories I've added onto this miter saw station, such as the drill charging station, the sanding disc holder, and the dust hood. I'm going to end up going over that in a different video, just so that way I can give more information, as well as add on some other things to this miter saw station. If you guys like this miter saw station and want to build one for yourself, I've linked some plans down below, so that way you can follow along. And if you like videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss one. Thanks for watching.